In the last tutorial, we set up our ability system component and created our first skill. But we don't have any control over when it activates. So in this tutorial, we are going to set up pressing any button that we want to activate an ability using a tag. Let's add tags to our game by first adding GameplayTags to our dependencies. I'm going to make an empty class to store our tags. Include GameplayTags container. Now I'm going to make a struct. Let's make an instance of the struct to return any getter for it. We make an initialize native GameplayTags function that we will call from our AssetManager to initialize all the tags. I'm going to add some tags. Feel free to add as many tags as you want here. Include the GameplayTags manager. Now we define our static variable GameplayTags. Now let's define our tags. Let's add an AssetManager class to replace the existing one, so that we can initialize our tags. We make a getter and then we override start initial loading. Check if gengine is valid, as we need it to get the asset manager, and we can cast it to our new asset manager class. We then can call the initialize native GameplayTags function that we created. Next, open the DefaultEngine.ini file and find script/engine.engine section. Add a new line. Use your project's name. And the name of your asset manager class. Now we can add a tag to our ability to use to activate it. I'm going to close the project and generate projects file again. Now let's run and see if our tags have been added correctly. We should be able to set the input tag for our ability now. I actually don't see my tag, so let's figure out why. There's actually a typo here. I spelled manager wrong, so let's fix that and try again. Now it's working. I'm going to set the tag for this ability to 1, so that when I press the 1 key on my keyboard, it triggers it. Let's find the player controller now. We need to bind to a function that will call the ability based on the tags on it. I'm going to make a function called AbilityAction with 2 parameters. Action tag and a boolean to know if the key has been pressed or released. Instead of creating a bunch of different functions and input actions for every ability, we are going to make something a bit more versatile. So here I'm going to make a tmap. It's basically an array that will store our different input actions and tags. We then can look up from it to activate an ability with its corresponding tag. Now if we try to bind to that function, like we did for the look and move function, you will see that it won't work. The BindAction function expects the function passed to it to have a specific signature. So instead we are going to use a template function to help us bypass this restriction. Our template function will need a target class, which is the controller class that we are using, and a target function being the function that we want to call. I'm going to call it BindTaggedInputActions and pass in a tmap, our input tag map. Templates functions are defined in the header file instead of the CPP. First thing we need to do is to make sure that our input tag map is not empty. Then we are going to access the enhance input component. Now we are going to loop over all the entries of the input tag map. Let's get our input action from it and its corresponding tag. If they are valid, we can now bind our function using them. As you can see now, we are able to do the same binding but with 2 additional parameters. Let's call our template function. Now in the AbilityAction function, we need to get our character's ability system component. Now if the ASC is valid and the button is pressed or released, we can do stuff. Let's go to the ability system component. I'm going to make 2 functions. One for when the input is pressed and one for when it's released. Now, so far we have been given the ability and activating it immediately. Let's remove that, and instead we are going to first add the input tag so that we can set it on the ability to the dynamic ability tags container. This can be modified at runtime so that we can change the button that triggers an ability as we wish. Instead of giving and activating an ability immediately, we are just going to give the ability. In AddAbilities we get all the activatable abilities that we have. We then check if the tag that the ability has is the same as our input tag. If it is the same, we can tell the ability that its input has been pressed. If the ability is not active, we can try to activate it. InputReleased is similar, except we tell the ability that its input has been released and we don't need to try to activate it. Let's call these functions that we just made from AbilityAction. Let's compile and run. We need some input actions. Now we can set them in our input context. Next, we can fill our input tag map with all the input actions and tags that we just made. Let's try this out now. Everything seems to be working. I'm going to make a second ability to test another button. Let's make a copy of this one. I'm gonna find an animation for it. Add the new ability to our character. Let's give it a try. It's looking pretty good. Now we can't hit anyone yet, so we should probably work on that next. Like and subscribe, join the Discord, and see you in the next tutorial where we're going to tackle adding collisions.